Welcome to the second episode in the Beyond Recruitment video series, where we talk about how we can help high-risk industries other than by just providing a recruitment service. I'm Pam Steed, Managing Director of Monarch Personnel, and I believe everybody has a role to play in life. And I also believe that by understanding who you are, that we can all achieve the best for ourselves and for the companies that we work for. I'm delighted to be joined again by our human resources expert. Welcome, Sharon. Welcome back.
Thank you, Pam. So I'm Sharon Abbott. I am an HR generalist. I've worked in HR for 35 years. Majority of that time I've worked in the oil industry, which of course is a high-risk industry. And the last 10 years I've spent in aviation fuels, which is where I came across you, Pam, and Monarch. I'm about to actually embark on branching out myself as an HR consultant. So that's the next bit of my journey. And I'll be providing practical HR support to small companies. That's my ideal, and possibly charities. So delighted to be here today, Pam.
Well, it's great to have you, and I'm sure you'll be absolutely fantastic in your new career.
Thank you.
So basically today we're going to continue our discussion on personality profiling and how it can be used to support all aspects of business, not just recruitment. In the first episode, we looked at what you can learn about yourself from a personality profile, and we even shared little bits about our own profiles. If you'd like to check the first episode out, you can get that if you're interested. So in terms of using personality profiles to lead or manage a team, when you're managing colleagues, knowing about your own profile can be very useful, but it can be just as beneficial to know about the profiles of the individuals within your team. As a HR expert and as a customer of Monarch, we've dealt with lots of profiles, Sharon. Mm-hmm. But have you ever used profiles for anything other than just recruitment purposes?
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, in terms you mentioned there about knowing your team, when we're working with our colleagues, everyone has their own preferred styles of working. And, sometimes you need to adapt your own style to enable you to work with them and get the best out of your team as well. So I think, certainly in terms of team development, that it's a great tool to be able to do that, and so that you can flex your style when you're working with different personalities.
I totally agree with you there. The colleagues that I manage, because their profiles are so different, I try to even vary the language that I use when I'm working with them. I try to communicate in ways that link to their values and their motivators. So is there a particular character trait, Sharon, that you think is useful to know about one of your close team members?
I think, some people prefer, kind of like working at a distance, getting on with, what they need to get on with and need less guidance. And then others need more guidance. So I think, for instance, the desire for guidance, that aspect of the personality profile can be really, useful in terms of managing your team. I think also, whether uh, being straightforwardness. We talked about that
Yes.
on, I think, on the first one. So,
Yeah.
I have a tendency to be quite straightforward at times.
Yep.
And, with one of my team, that's fine. That's what she prefers.
Yep.
With other members of my team, I need to hold back and kind of not
Yes.
be so
Yeah.
straightforward.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally understand where you're coming from. One of the character traits that I tend to like to understand about my close team is whether they like to be part of a team or whether they prefer really to work independently. And I think particularly if you're having to delegate any tasks or projects, it's very useful to be able to give the right things to the right mindset.
Mhm.
And I think we can learn so much about each other through understanding
Yeah.
our natural behaviours. We're in the situation where we're dealing with COVID. Do you think having an in-depth understanding of the profiles of our team is even more important? We're in the second lockdown, and so many of us are working remotely. Do you
Mm.
think it's important to know our team's profiles in these situations?
I think it's even more important right now, Pam.
Yeah,
When we're working in an office together, you naturally get those moments where you will connect, work together as a team, connect as a team. So now working remotely, you have to create those
you
opportunities.
do, most definitely. Yeah,
So I know with my own team, we have probably more regular calls than we've ever had. So
yes,
I'm constantly on Teams, but
yeah.
we also make sure that we spend a bit of time just having, that personal
The
chat.
social chat.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
no, and even down to and I know your team has done it because I've had the conversations with yourself and some of your colleagues. Just the mindset, keeping it healthy by having that social interaction.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I think somebody told me your pub is called the Refuelers Arms,
Yes.
and we have the Monarch pub. And I must admit, we've had some quizzes, we've heard some jokes,
Hmm.
we've done it all, as I'm sure you have too. But I do think, particularly if you're a team player, this isolation
Yeah.
it can be tough
Hmm.
on that mindset
Yeah.
where you're naturally a people person.
Yeah.
So,
Thank God for Teams, Pam.
yeah,
I think
exactly.
that
Yeah,
happened just at the right
yeah.
time.
No, I
Mhm.
totally agree. Um, so in terms of personality profiling to manage business, I mean, it's really tough out there at the moment. Um, and I think what we forget sometimes is that profiling isn't just useful um, to manage individuals. There are some business decisions and HR decisions that can be better informed by understanding the personality of any individual or any team. Can you think of where it's relevant, Sharon, in terms of knowing a particular profile would be useful in day-to-day business?
Yeah, I think in this world of kind of COVID, where people, the organisations are reviewing, their organisational structure, and you're looking at restructuring, people perhaps going into different roles, having that understanding of their profile, being able to question, looking at development areas that
Yeah,
we
yeah,
may need to look at, if they're moving into different roles. I think particularly if someone's moving into a leadership role where some of these profiles really are important, because they need to understand the way that they work, and like we said, the way their team works and how they flex their style to get the best out of their team.
Totally. Totally. Even down to considering about who to promote. I think sometimes if you know the team and you are bringing, say, an outsider in or looking to promote internally, knowing the profile of that person you are looking to bring in can be extremely important, because the wrong profile could totally upset the apple cart. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I would always use it as a guide, to have a further exploratory conversation.
Totally.
In the first instance. So, wouldn't use it as the main deciding factor, but certainly, it's additional information. We invest a lot of time in people, in terms of recruitment, development, training. So, I think the more information that you can have on a person, the better informed you are.
Yeah. And obviously, it's also very important on choosing who to employ, particularly in high-risk industries.
Yeah.
And we actually did touch on that in the first episode. In terms of training, do you think it can be relative to what training to use or what style of training?
Yes, we all know that people have different preferences of learning, different learning styles. So certainly it can be useful in that respect, so how the training is actually delivered, as well as understanding strengths and weaknesses, where the gaps may be, what sort of training you might want to focus on.
Yeah. I think that understanding strengths and weaknesses of the individual that you're managing, that's really important, because obviously if you can help improve the weaknesses, and you can develop the strengths, can't you, in general. So in terms of practical advice, Sharon, for team leaders, have you got any advice that you could give to a team leader about using and understanding a profile of their team members to help them manage on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think, as I said earlier, I think it's a great starting point, to then have further discussions with your team, thinking about, what their preferences are in terms of, the work you delegate, where you may need to focus on coaching and support and development. So I think, it's definitely a great starting point to open up those conversations.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And thinking of somebody who is a new team leader, for me, this type of thing can be absolutely invaluable. Do you think it's more important that you know your own profile or that of your colleagues?
I think certainly you do need to know your own profile, because, if you have a good understanding of that, you can see, what are the if you're, like I said earlier, if you're very straightforward and one of your team members that's not the way that you get the best out of them. Then you need to think about, okay, I might just need to change tact here. Work differently with that individual. So I think it's good for the whole team to have it, but yes, certainly you do need to know as an individual.
One of the things I think is good as well is sometimes, and we've actually done this as an exercise in our own operation, is to share each other's profiles. Because I think if we share each other's profiles, if we know each other's strengths and weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
and our individual preferences, we get the best out of things as a team, and
Yeah.
we learn how to communicate and encourage individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And it is all about supporting the team, particularly in the COVID world that we're living in at the moment.
Yeah.
So if you had a relatively new team leader, is there one way that you would suggest a new team leader could incorporate an element of learning from their personality profile into their management style? How could you could you give us any help there, Sharon? Just one pointer to be able to do that?
So I think the sharing that you mentioned before is important. I think it's helpful to kind of like facilitate that discussion with the team. So
Yeah.
I know with new teams that I've supported in the past, what we've done is they've all kind of done the personality profiles, and then they've had a team discussion about it. So they, like you said, sharing the profiles and helping to kind of like get that cohesiveness.
Yeah, I think sharing the team profiles as well is good from the angle that you can actually realise as a team where the team's strengths are and where the team's weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And that can sometimes help if you're bringing in a new colleague. You can actually look to try and bring in somebody who has got maybe the team's weaknesses as strengths, and it gives another dimension to the team overall, and adds some balance. Well, that brings us to the end of our second session, Sharon. I've absolutely loved talking to you. Thanks for making such a great contribution. So if there's anybody out there who would like to talk to Monarch Personnel, if there's any aspects about understanding a profile that we can help you or your team with, we will do some free bulk applications as well. Please subscribe below or sign up to our newsletter to learn about our next video and when that will be launched. Thanks again, Sharon. It's really appreciated.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. If you have any questions from today's discussion, please get in touch on our website or through our social media channels. Thank you. Bye.